The guy's special. I've been in this game my whole life. I've never seen anything like him. This guy is one of the most special fighters I've ever seen, if not the most special guy that I've ever come across.
I'm the most dangerous guy here. I got a coming for everyone. I kill everybody. Allah Akbar.
Through 14 straight victories, only one question remains.
That dude, Khamzat, is the fucking truth.
Real deal.
He's the fucking truth. He's had 4 wins, he's been hit twice. And that's not bullshit. 4 wins, he was hit twice.
Is there a man alive who can stop him?
Khamzat Borz Chimaev!
From the wrestling mats of Chechnya to the bright lights of the octagon, one man has carved a path of destruction through the UFC like no other. Khamzat Borz Chimaev. Undefeated, undeniable, unstoppable.
Still undefeated and likely coming to a title fight near you. Khamzat Chimaev is that good.
17 seconds. That's all it took for Khamzat Chimaev to announce himself as the UFC's newest nightmare. One devastating right hand, and Gerald Meerschaert was unconscious before he hit the canvas. But this wasn't just a knockout. This was the moment the world discovered a fighter whose journey from war-torn Chechnya to the top of the UFC would be unlike anything we'd ever seen. The man they call Borz, the Wolf, has an undefeated record that tells only half the story. Because behind every devastating finish, every impossible takedown, every moment of pure violence, lies a tale of survival that makes his fighting career seem almost secondary. This is the story of a refugee who fled one of the world's most dangerous conflicts, only to become one of the most feared men on the planet.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king.
When Khamzat Chimaev was born on May 1, 1994, in the small village of Gvardeyskoye, Chechnya was burning. The First Chechen War had just begun, and this tiny republic in Russia's North Caucasus region was about to become a hellscape of guerrilla warfare, suicide bombings, and systematic destruction. For the next decade and a half, this would be Khamzat's reality. Imagine growing up where the sound of gunfire is your alarm clock, where going to school means navigating checkpoints and wondering if today's the day a bomb goes off near your classroom. This wasn't some distant conflict you read about in history books. This was daily life for a Chechen child named Khamzat, who started wrestling at age 5 not because he dreamed of athletic glory, but because physical strength might be the difference between life and death. The wrestling club was just across the street from his family's home, but even that short walk carried risks. Chechnya during the 1990s and 2000s was a place where civilians disappeared, where entire families were caught in crossfires between Russian forces and Chechen rebels, where children learned to duck at the sound of helicopters overhead. But inside that wrestling room, Khamzat found something pure, something that made sense when nothing else did. He was a natural, grinding through opponents with a ferocity that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than just athletic competition. By his teenage years, he'd earned a bronze medal at the Russian National Championships at the junior level. The kid from the war zone was becoming a force. His older brother had already made the choice that would change everything. In the early 2000s, he'd managed to get to Sweden, joining the wave of Chechen refugees seeking asylum in Western Europe. Sweden, with its generous refugee policies and peaceful society, was about as far from Chechnya as you could get, both geographically and spiritually. His brother worked, got his papers, established himself, and then made the call that would reshape Khamzat's entire existence.
Yeah, my brother was living here. He told us that come here is good for us. After that, we stay here. We like it, and they help us a lot as well. Yeah, the beginning was for me. I was young, 19, and just doesn't want to left my friends, But when we comes here, it was a small village here as well, and I didn't know somebody. We didn't have a gym as well there.
But leaving wasn't simple.
Russia's new leadership has intensified hostilities in Chechnya.
This wasn't a family vacation where you pack some bags and catch a flight. This was abandoning everything you've ever known, possibly forever, for a country where you don't speak the language, don't understand the culture, and have absolutely no guarantee of survival, let alone success. In 2013, when Khamzat was 18 years old, he made that journey with his mother, his friends, his entire identity as a Chechen wrestler, and stepped into the unknown. The destination was Kalmar, Sweden, where his brother was waiting with promises of safety and opportunity.
I moved here and they bring us to immigration. We get that one room. My sisters, me, and mom, everyone's living in the same room. That was hard.
He found local wrestling clubs and dove back into the sport that had been his sanctuary during the war years. The transition wasn't smooth, but his talent was undeniable. Within a few years, Khamzat Chimaev became a dominant force in Swedish wrestling. He won the Swedish Freestyle National Championships 3 times, twice at 86 kilograms in 2016 and 2017, and once at 92 kilograms in 2018. His tournament record was perfect, 12-0 with 3 pins, 7 technical falls, and a combined score of 105 points while allowing only 2 against him. At 23 years old, most elite fighters are already well into their professional careers. As for Khamzat Chimaev, he was just discovering mixed martial arts. Think about that for a moment. Jon Jones was already the youngest UFC champion in history when he was 23 years of age. He joined All Stars Training Center in Stockholm, one of Europe's premier MMA gyms. Suddenly, he was training alongside UFC veterans like Alexander Gustafsson, who'd gone 12 rounds with Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier in title fights. There was Ilir Latifi, a UFC light heavyweight who'd been competing at the highest level for years, and Reza Madadi, a former UFC lightweight who became Khamzat's primary coach. These weren't just training partners. They were his introduction to what elite-level mixed martial arts actually looked like. Gustafsson, in particular, became something of a mentor, showing this raw refugee kid what it meant to represent Sweden on the world's biggest stage. But Khamzat brought something to the gym that even these UFC veterans hadn't seen, a hunger that went beyond normal athletic ambition.
He out-trains everybody, and it's nobody that trains like him. Nobody. I haven't seen it. I've been around the world seeing fighters train and having their camps and then training for a fight. This guy, he doesn't get tired. He doesn't feel any pain. Just go through it.
Like, is this guy does he have like a Habib factor to him? Does he have like a GSP factor to him? Like, do you think he'll go down as like greatest fighter of all time? Like, is that the level of potential that we're talking about? Like,
that's the level of potential, 100%. Yeah.
His amateur career was brief but perfect. 3 fights, 3 wins, all by finish. The first opponent was future IMMAF world champion Khalid Lalam, whom Khamzat submitted in the second round with a Bravo choke. Next was Danijel Gurbic, submitted by guillotine choke in the second round. Finally, Adnan Muzik, knocked out in the first round. Each fight was more dominant than the last. Coaches and training partners began to whisper that they were watching something special. This wasn't just a talented athlete picking up mixed martial arts. This was a natural predator discovering his true calling. On May 26, 2018, Khamzat made his professional debut against Gard Olve Sagan at International Ring Fight Arena 14 in Sweden. Technical knockout, second round. Three months later, he submitted Ole Magnor with a rear naked choke at Fight Club Rush 3. The pattern was already clear. Khamzat didn't just win fights, he ended them. Brave Combat Federation, a major Middle Eastern promotion, came calling. This was Khamzat's introduction to fighting outside Sweden, to facing international competition, to the pressure of representing something bigger than himself. Over 4 fights with Brave CF, he went 4-0 with 3 finishes. The performances were so dominant that UFC scouts began taking notice. But here's the thing about Khamzat's rise that gets lost in all the highlight reels and knockout compilations. He was still figuring out who he was, not just as a fighter, but as a person. He was a Chechen by birth, a Swedish resident by circumstance, a Russian citizen by passport, and increasingly a global phenomenon by choice. In 2020, the UFC came calling.
It's fun and I like it. And I think when you're a fight fan, a guy like this is the type of guy that you love to watch and follow.
The UFC debut was scheduled for July 15th, 2020, at UFC Fight Night on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. His opponent was John Phillips, a Welsh veteran with over 20 professional fights and a reputation for toughness. But nobody could have predicted what happened next. The UFC had planned to ease Khamzat into the deep end of the talent pool, give him a solid veteran for his debut, see how he handled the bright lights and the pressure, then maybe book him again in a few months if he looked promising. That's how these things normally work. Prospects get developed slowly, carefully, with months between fights to adjust and improve. Khamzat Chimaev obliterated that entire playbook in the span of 10 days. The performance was so dominant, so technically perfect, that UFC matchmakers immediately started scrambling.
So how do you feel, man? I mean,
I
from
feel
our vantage
amazing,
point,
amazing. I want to fight next week. Doesn't matter when.
Is that-
Today, tomorrow.
Is that
One
what-
more fight. I'm so hungry.
What are the chances you think you will bring him back to Fight Island and pull those strings?
Good. The chances are good. The guy wants to fight again. He didn't really have a lot of time to train. We flew him in here. It's been crazy since that kid's been here. He was training out in a parking lot, and he's a fascinating human being. And yes, if I can turn him around in Fight Island, I will.
10 days later, Khamzat was back in the octagon facing Rhys McKee at UFC Fight Night. 10 days. Most fighters take months between bouts. Competition, or some kind of elaborate practical joke.
Do you look at the welterweight division and see anybody that can challenge you right now? I mean, we need to find someone that can slow you
Doesn't
down.
matter. Everybody. I'm gonna smash everybody. How many fighters in the MMA division? I'm gonna smash all the whole division. Give me champion, 84 kilos, 77 kilos. I'm gonna smash both. Same day.
2 fights, 10 days, 2 finishes, 0 damage taken. Social media exploded. Hardcore MMA fans were sharing clips with casual sports fans. Khamzat's Instagram followers went from practically 0 to hundreds of thousands overnight. But the UFC had one more test in mind, and this one would change everything. Gerald Meerschaert was supposed to be the reality check, a crafty veteran with 44 professional fights, solid grappling skills, and enough experience to expose any holes in a prospect's game. He'd been in there with real competition and was exactly the kind of fighter who could humble an overhyped newcomer.
Any of his fights that I've seen, he hasn't met real resistance, and I think that's going to be a big test. I don't care how many amateur fights you have.
You lose your fight.
Sometimes you lose when you fight tough guys, man.
Who give you
You'll
this
find
black
out
belt? I have
Saturday.
blue belt. I'm gonna choke you out.
You can go ahead and try there, buddy.
You have to give me your black belt to me.
And last one for me for Gerald. I know yesterday you spoke about this getting on the media day, but I wanted to just clarify. You said there was a bit of a run-in with Khamzat at the host hotel earlier this week. Can you just explain what happened?
He said apparently one of my buddies heard him say something about he was going to smash my face, but again, trying to talk trash to somebody while you're wearing masks and walking in a different direction.
Because I say that, I'm gonna smash your face.
On September 19th, 2020, at UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas, Khamzat Chimaev and Gerald Meerschaert stood across from each other in the octagon. Veteran versus rookie, experience versus raw talent, the old guard versus the new breed. Veterans don't get starched by newcomers with single punches. Experienced fighters don't get caught that clean, that easily, that devastatingly. But Khamzat wasn't just any newcomer. This was a man who'd survived a war zone, who'd rebuilt his life from scratch in a foreign country, who'd dedicated every waking moment to becoming the most dangerous human being possible. The 17-second knockout wasn't lucky. It was inevitable. In 3 fights spanning just over 2 months, Khamzat had gone from unknown prospect to must-see television. He'd earned Performance of the Night bonuses in all 3 outings, pocketing an extra $150,000 just in bonuses. His combined fight time was less than 8 minutes. His combined damage taken was essentially 0. The comparisons to Khabib Nurmagomedov were inevitable, but annoying to Khamzat. Khabib number 2, reporters would say.
Obviously you had been so dominant with your grappling in the other 2 fights. Did you want to show your striking this time? Were you trying to prove a point that, hey, I can strike too?
Yeah, because everybody say you Khabib number 2, something like that. But I'm Khamzat. I can knock out people, like submit the people, smash the people, everything. I have everything.
And he seemed to. Wrestling that could take down anyone. Submissions that could finish fights from anywhere. Knockout power that could end fights with a single shot. Cardio that never seemed to fade. Mental toughness forged in literal war zones. At 26 years old, Khamzat Chimaev looked like he might be unbeatable. Then, in 2019, COVID nearly killed him. The timeline of Khamzat's COVID battle reads like a medical horror story. In December 2020, he was scheduled to fight Leon Edwards, middleweight contender, in what would have been a massive step up in competition. Edwards had to pull out after contracting COVID-19 himself. The fight was rescheduled for January 2021. This time it was Khamzat who tested positive.
You know, right before we started taping, just to let the viewers know, you received some news on Khamzat. You want to share that with the viewers?
Yeah, so as soon as we sat down here, Sean Shelby came in and gave me an email that Khamzat Chimaev is still suffering from the effects of COVID. There's something wrong with his lungs. They're putting him on medication again, and he's out of that fight.
At first, it seemed like a minor setback. Lots of fighters were dealing with COVID protocols. Khamzat would recover, the fight would get rescheduled again, and life would go on. Except Khamzat didn't recover. Not properly, not completely. His jiu-jitsu coach, Alan Nascimento, later described the nightmare. It affected him so quickly, he had every symptom, including difficulty to breathe. We were worried. He started to struggle desperately in the middle of the night. He couldn't breathe, and we wanted to take him to the hospital. Nascimento flew back to Sweden with Khamzat as soon as they tested negative, hoping that familiar surroundings and proper medical care would help. X-rays and MRIs revealed serious damage to Khamzat's lungs, looking like he had pneumonia or asthma, something like that, Nascimento explained. But here's where the story takes a turn that reveals everything about Khamzat's character, both its strength and its potential weakness. He refused to accept that he was seriously ill. Against all medical advice, against the pleas of his team, he decided he was ready to return to training. Khamzat flew back to the United States alone, without his coaches or training partners, convinced that he could will himself back to health through sheer determination. He showed up at Extreme Couture in Las Vegas, ready to spar and get back to normal. That's when his body finally forced him to face reality.
Did you talk with Khamzat today?
No, not today.
Not today? It's like I wasn't feeling so good, man. I started coughing, started feeling ill again, and we had to cancel the training. Even went with an ambulance to the hospital.
Khamzat. The psychological toll was immense. Nascimento and his team managed to get Khamzat back to Sweden, but the damage was done. For months, Khamzat battled not just the physical effects of the virus, but the mental terror that comes with a serious health scare. Then came the misdiagnosis that nearly broke him completely. In 2023, appearing on the Full Send podcast, Khamzat revealed the darkest moment of his health crisis.
You know, that time when I said that, doctor said to me, "Coming down, you has a cancer, man." That's why I said that I'm retired. I didn't know what to say to my family. I didn't know what to say to the people. Then we check again. The other doctor said, "No, you don't have a cancer, and you still coughing blood, and you think, man, you're finished, you know."
On March 2nd, 2021, Khamzat posted what appeared to be his retirement announcement on Instagram. "Thank you all so much for supporting me in my journey in this sport. I think I'm done. It's not the most important victory in this life. It may upset you, but my heart and body tell me everything." Along with the post, he shared a photo of blood in a sink. Blood he'd coughed up that morning. For someone who'd built his entire identity around being an unstoppable force, admitting weakness was almost unbearable. His manager, Majdi Shamas, later revealed just how dark things got.
Got him to the hospital, you know. And even when he was in the hospital, he called me when he called me, he thought he was going to die.
Dana White refused to accept the retirement. He'd seen too much potential, invested too much in Khamzat's future, to let a virus end what could be a legendary career. White flew Khamzat to Las Vegas for treatment, putting him on prednisone and other medications, essentially forcing him to take the recovery seriously. So he's on prednisone, and he's supposed to be taking this thing and chilling, relaxing, and letting himself recover, White explained to MMA Junkie. He went in and fucking trained today, felt like shit, and got super emotional and posted that.
Потому что 2 месяца болел, не выздоравливался, долго болел, и поэтому я уже сколько раз интервью такое даю, просто болел, стресс был, и из-за того, что не могу драться, не могу тренироваться, поэтому такие слова были, там не было такого.
13 months. That's how long Khamzat was away from competition. 13 months of wondering if the hype had been real or just a product of favorable matchmaking. Other contenders make training facilities. When the UFC finally booked his return, they chose the perfect opponent, Li Jingliang, the Leech, a Chinese welterweight coming off a spectacular knockout of Santiago Ponzinibbio. Li was ranked, experienced, dangerous, and exactly the kind of fighter who could expose a diminished Khamzat. UFC 267 in Abu Dhabi, October 30th, 2021. The return of Khamzat Chimaev. Half the MMA world was convinced the hype had been overblown, that the long layoff and health issues had irreparably damaged his momentum. The other half couldn't wait to see if the Borz was still the same nightmare he'd been before COVID. The fight lasted just 3 minutes.
Oh my goodness! Oh, he's under the net! Under the chin here. Oh, the hype is real! Khamzat Chimaev remarkably does it again! Have you ever seen a phenom like Khamzat Chimaev?
I mean, that's not the first guy that's had a big fat zero on their strikes landed when they fought Khamzat Chimaev.
It was the kind of performance that makes you question the laws of physics. Li wasn't just a good fighter. He was a ranked contender with knockout power and legitimate skills. Khamzat made him look like a regional amateur.
I said that I'm the king here. I will stay a long time. I'm gonna come for everybody. I kill everybody. Everybody. I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king here.
The return had proven something beyond just his fighting abilities. It showed that Khamzat Chimaev was more than just physical talent. He proved a mental fortitude to come back from the brink, to face down mortality and emerge even more dangerous than before. The Li fight earned him another Performance of the Night bonus and put him right back in title contention. But more importantly, it proved that the COVID battle had been a detour, not a destination. Next up was the fight that would truly test everything Khamzat had learned about himself. Gilbert Burns at UFC 273. Gilbert Durinho Burns wasn't just another contender. He was a former title challenger, a BJJ world champion, a knockout artist, and one of the most well-rounded welterweights on the planet. He'd gone 5 rounds with Kamaru Usman for the title just a year earlier, dropping the champion in the first round before eventually being finished in the third. This was the fight that would answer all the remaining questions about Khamzat. Could he handle elite-level striking? Could he deal with world-class grappling? Could he perform when he wasn't the hunter but the hunted? Could he handle adversity inside the octagon the way he'd handled it outside? April 9th, 2022 in Jacksonville, Florida. Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns. The hype versus the proven commodity. The future versus the present. And evolve when the stakes were highest.
Now I'm blooding. I'm tired. I feel a little pain. I love
The Burns fight changed everything. It proved Khamzat was human, which somehow made him even more terrifying. Because if he could look mortal against elite competition and still find a way to win, what did that say about his potential when he put everything together? But just as his momentum was building again, just as title shots were being discussed seriously, Khamzat's health issues returned with a vengeance. The weight cut for his scheduled bout against Nate Diaz at UFC 279 went disastrously wrong. Khamzat missed weight by 7.5 pounds, forcing a complete reshuffling of the card.
178 and a half.
Not that bad.
Say that now, you bitch. You're not about that life, kid.
You're not about it, kid.
You're my pick. Come on.
This is the weirdest thing I've ever been a part of. We had a big shit show break out back there. Yeah, this ain't gonna happen. I apologize, everybody. Yesterday, there was a lot of questions about what happened. Kevin Holland and Khamzat Chimaev actually got into it yesterday. Ironically, they will now fight, and Saturday night.
The performance amount of training or determination could overcome. By 2023, another pattern was emerging. Khamzat was becoming increasingly distant from Sweden, the country that had given him refuge and opportunity. Political tensions were rising over Sweden's handling of Quran burnings and other issues important to Muslim communities. For a proud Chechen Muslim like Khamzat, these weren't abstract political debates. They were personal affronts. In September 2023, his manager made an announcement that shocked the MMA world. Khamzat was leaving Sweden permanently and moving to the United Arab Emirates. He has emigrated. He is no longer Swedish. Majdi Shamas told Swedish outlet SVT Sports. When pressed for details, he simply said he wanted to emigrate. Just like that, the refugee who'd found sanctuary in Sweden was moving on again. The fighter who'd represented Swedish MMA on the world's biggest stage was trading Stockholm for Dubai, All-Stars training center for new facilities in the Middle East. The move made sense on multiple levels. The UAE offered better training conditions, world-class facilities, a Muslim-majority culture where Khamzat could feel more at home, and significant financial incentives. His new training footage from Dubai showed a fighter who looked refreshed, focused, and more dangerous than ever. Working with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion Alan do Nascimento and other elite coaches, Khamzat was clearly taking his preparation to another level. The UAE move also coincided with his transition to middleweight full-time. The weight cuts to welterweight had been increasingly difficult, and his frame suggested he'd be more comfortable at 185 pounds. It was a smart career move that opened up new opportunities, while potentially solving some of his recurring health issues. His first fight representing the UAE came at UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi against Kamaru Usman, the former UFC welterweight champion, who now called middleweight his home. After over a year away, questions remained about whether the latest health issues and major life change were absolutely breathtaking.
Guys, you know what's happening in the world now, right now? Oh, see the kids dying. It doesn't matter. Muslim, Christian, Jewish, doesn't matter. Let us live in this world good. Let us be happy.
It was his next performance that would truly announce his arrival as a legitimate title contender. Robert Whittaker was supposed to be the ultimate test, a former middleweight champion, one of the most well-rounded fighters in the division, a man who'd gone to war from Israel Adesanya to Yoel Romero and emerged with his reputation intact. If anyone could expose manufactured hype job, it was Bobby Knuckles. October 26, 2024, UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi. Khamzat versus Whittaker for what was essentially a #1 contenders match. This wasn't about proving he belonged anymore. This was about proving he was ready to be champion. Terrifying and definitive.
He said you dislocated his jaw with that choke.
Yeah, I felt weird when his chin was almost broken. I feel something wrong. So I click.
That was an amazing performance.
Yeah, man. I'm going for the belt.
This wasn't just a win over a former champion. This was a statement that Khamzat had evolved into something completely different from the wild prospect who burst onto the scene 4 years earlier. On May 13, 2025, the UFC made it official. Khamzat Chimaev would face Dricus du Plessis for the UFC Middleweight Championship at UFC 319 on August 16, 2025 in Chicago. After everything, the war zone childhood, the refugee journey, the COVID nightmare, the misdiagnosis scare, the country changes, the health issues, Khamzat was finally getting his shot at UFC Gold. 2025, I will take this belt inshallah, and no one can stop it, he posted on social media. The same unwavering confidence that had carried him from Chechen wrestling rooms to the brink of UFC championship glory. But questions remain. Can his body hold up through a full training camp? Will the pressure of finally reaching the mountaintop affect his performance? Can Can he handle Dricus Duplessis, one of the most durable and well-rounded champions in recent memory? Various sources. Caio Baralho, a top middleweight contender, claimed, "I heard somewhere, some people saying that if he wins the belt, he's going to retire. There's too much pressure on him." Whether he wins or loses against Dricus Duplessis, whether he retires immediately afterward or continues fighting for years to come, Khamzat Chimaev has already accomplished something remarkable. The wolf from Chechnya is no longer howling in the wilderness. He's standing at the gates of the kingdom, ready to claim what he believes is rightfully his. August 16th will determine whether this incredible journey ends in triumph or heartbreak. But regardless of the outcome, Khamzat Chimaev has already won the most important fight of his life, the fight to become himself. From war refugee to UFC nightmare, from unknown prospect to title contender, from survival to supremacy, the boy who learned to fight because the world was fighting around him is now one fight away from proving he's the best fighter in the world. In a sport built on individual achievement and personal conquest, there's never been a story quite like this one. 17 seconds was all it took to introduce the world to Khamzat Chimaev. On August 16th, we'll find out if 25 minutes is enough to crown him champion.